are a little bit more dominant. Some of them are a little more subtle. So well, the first one I notice here is this shadow cast by her chin. So we're going to create that shape. We're also going to be creating a shape here that's really kind of subtle, but there's a shadow here that's falling right along her collarbone. We see that, and you also see a slight highlight right in here. We also see kind of a glaring highlight here on the upper part of her sternum, as well as a really subtle shadow down here on the lower part of this opening. So if you look really closely, you'll even see a little bit of a shadow here towards the edge where the shirt is contacting. So we may have a little bit of a cast shadow there. I tell you what, let's go ahead and jump in here and get started doing this. I'm going to go ahead and grab my ellipse tool here first, and let's jump into outline mode. I'm going to come in and draw a couple of ellipse shapes here that we're going to use for her breasts. So we'll just go ahead and rotate these into position here. Try and get these lined up as best as possible here with these lines on the inside of her cleavage. And let's go ahead and duplicate that over. And see if we can't lay this other one in there. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now, let me go ahead and hide these two shapes just for a moment. Now, I'd like these ellipses to fall right along the center of this really subtle shadow that falls right here. It's really kind of hard to see, but I want this to fall right around in that area. So let me go ahead and bring those back, and I tell you what, let's go ahead and shrink this one down just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Not necessarily worried about those being absolutely perfect with the photograph, just as long as they're believable. So let's come in here now and use our pen tool to kind of create the shadow that's being cast by her chin. So I'll go ahead and hit P on my keyboard. We'll grab the pen tool, and we'll just go ahead and begin drawing in the shape. Just like so. And we'll go ahead and bend that bezier around and close that path off. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and grab our pencil tool now, and we'll go ahead and begin creating kind of this shape that falls along her collarbones. Now, really, I'd like to kind of divide her chest right along the collarbones here. So we'll go ahead and just begin drawing in a shape here. And let's go ahead and carry that all the way around, close that path off. Now, we're going to end up intersecting that here with the existing shape for the base of her chest, but really all I'm concerned with kind of is this part of the path right in here. So we're going to stick with that, and I'm actually going to come in and draw in kind of a reference for these highlights. I believe it kind of comes sort of like that. Alright, great. So I tell you what, there's some other shapes here. We'll handle those here in just a little bit, but let's jump out of outline mode now, and let's go ahead and start working on some of these shapes. Now, we're going to need to select these ellipses if we want to work on those first, because they don't have a color applied to them. So we'll come over here and apply a quick radial gradient to those. And grab our gradient tool so we can adjust these gradient annotators here. Go ahead and just kind of, even before I've applied color here, I'm just going to kind of come in and start roughly positioning these. Now I am going to go ahead and send these all the way to the back and bring them forward one time so we can get them behind the shape of her brassiere. So we'll go ahead and do that here, and let's go ahead and grab this other shape. And let's go ahead and twirl this one around, maybe pinch it in some. Make it a little larger there. Alright, that'll work for right now. We can tweak those here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and get some color on these. Let's come over here and let's think about, we've got this skin color here. Let's go ahead and drag that down. And let's go ahead and drag kind of a highlight color down. Let's go ahead and drag maybe this color. Now, we may need to actually brighten that up just a little bit. But let's go ahead and drag down kind of a shadow color here as well. Shadow color may not be quite right. Let's go ahead and double click on our highlight. And we'll come in here and let's just brighten that up just a little bit. Take it up to maybe 97 or so. And we'll desaturate it down to about 15. And then we'll come over here to the shadow color here. And I want to muddy that up just a little bit. So tell you what, let's go ahead and drop the brightness just a little bit. Drop the saturation, and then take a little bit of that red out. Maybe not the saturation that much. Alright, that'll work for right now. So we've got our base gradient set here. Now I'm just going to adjust these color stops. The shadow is pretty dominant right now, so let's go ahead and adjust this mid-tone over. And let's grab our gradient tool here. And we'll come in and pinch this in just a little bit. Maybe rotate it around some. See how that looks. I tell you what, let's come in here and rotate this around just a bit more and maybe drag that out just a little bit. I may come in here and fine-tune those shadows just a little bit. In between lessons, rather. Let's come over here and handle this other one. We'll come in and select this particular ellipse. Let's use our eyedropper tool, sample that gradient here, and we'll grab our gradient tool again, and we'll go after this one, trying to get that shadow position just where we want it. And we'll just adjust that. Got it pinched in maybe just a little bit too far here. And we'll rotate that just a little bit. And there we go. That's starting to look pretty good. So we've got those base gradients set for those shapes. Let's come in here and jump into outline mode and take a look at some other shapes here. Now, we've got this shadow shape. We need to go ahead and do something with that here. So let's go ahead and select that shape and maybe apply a color here to that. And it looks like we need to bring that shadow shape up just a bit more. Let's come in and add an anchor point with our pen tool. And we'll just drag that up. Alright, so we'll go ahead and change this one to a linear gradient. Let's drag down that same brown color for right now. And we'll set that gradient using our gradient tool. And let's drop the opacity on that light color stop. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and just drag this down a little bit. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and maybe we warm this shadow up just a bit more. Alright, that's starting to look pretty good. Now, I feel like the shadow isn't quite where it needs to be, though. Maybe we need to drag this down some and rotate this just a bit. Go ahead and pull that down right about there. And let's go ahead and handle this shape that we had created for her collarbones here. Go ahead and grab that shape. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and hit, I'm going to go ahead and unlock the shapes that I have locked, being the base layer here, the base shape. And we'll go ahead and select that collarbone shape and this shape right here. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy that base shape. We'll select both of those. And let's go ahead and intersect those. Now we've got our shape here that is going to serve as our collarbone shape. So we'll go ahead and paste in on top our skin layer here. Send that all the way to the back. And now what we've got is our shape here that we can apply a separate color to. So I've selected that shape. And if we hide that layer and take a look at that, there's just a real subtle warmer tone to that shape overall. So let's go ahead and maybe, with that shape selected here, come in and apply a linear gradient to that, just to start off with. We'll do a nice big gradient here. And let's go ahead and send that all the way to the back and bring it forward one. Alright, great. So now I'm going to come over here and we're going to make a couple changes. We're going to come in and maybe drag our skin tone down in. Drag that highlight color we were using off. And I tell you what, let's come in and maybe drop the opacity here on that color stop. There we go. That's starting to look pretty good. All right, so we've got a nice shape built there for the area of her collarbone. We've got some nice gradients laid down for her breasts here. Let me go ahead and tweak those a little bit in between lessons here just to get those a little bit more fine-tuned. And in the next lesson, we'll pick up where we're leaving off here, and we'll continue building some of these shapes for the shadows and highlights on her chest.